Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's topic will be the demonization of African traditional religions. We need to start off by asking what is an African traditional religion in the first place. And from my research, I have found it's the spiritual practices and values of the African people. Now, there are literally 54 countries in Africa and over 3,000 ethnic groups. So there is a wide variety in these spiritual practices and beliefs. However, through my research, I have found there are commonalities between them. One being there is usually a supreme creator God, and there is also a big emphasis on ancestral worship. And finally, another really common thing is the use of herbal medicines within spiritual practices. Now, I am Nigerian, more specifically from the Esan tribe. I will not refer to it as the Ishan tribe because that is the anglicized version. From the English, you couldn't pronounce Esan, but that's another conversation for another day. I had to try and research some of the spiritual practices and beliefs that we hold as an ethnic group. I found this really, really difficult to do. I could barely find anything. As some people, 98% of us are Christian. The name that we use for the Christian God was actually derived from the name we used for the supreme God, which is Osenabua. So that was quite interesting to find out. However, like I said, I found it really, really hard to find further resources about other gods, other practices. Like I'd have to actually go back home and go to the village, find a Babalawo who is practicing on the low and ask them about the kind of traditional spiritual practices that my people have been practicing before Christianity. And that leads me nicely onto my next chapter in this video essay, should we call it? How have we gotten to a point where African traditional religions have been stigmatized? I'm going to be focusing on Nigeria because that's my country of origin as my case study, and we will go from there. Before Christianity came on the block, there was another Abrahamic religion that was already popping, and that was mainly the north of Nigeria, and that was Islam. Islam was introduced in Nigeria in the 9th century through Berber and Arab traders, and it was more or less well established by the 10th century. So Christianity was first introduced to Nigeria in the 15th century. The Portuguese tried to make it stick with their missionaries and monks and all sorts. It didn't, it flopped. It wasn't until the 19th century, that wave of colonialism with the British. Obviously, they came through with their Roman Catholics and Anglican missionaries. And this time it did stick. This is a bit of a dark fact in my opinion, but just for context, the British Empire abolished slavery in 1838. Part of the new wave of colonialism also included bringing ex-slaves from Sierra Leone who were trained up as missionaries. Yeah, they also came through to Nigeria to help with this colonial mission. Anyways, when did this demonization of the traditional religions really start to take a hold? As the missionaries were coming through, part of that conditioning included, yeah, whatever you lot were practicing before, that's demonic, witchcraft, evil. Yeah, you guys need to get rid of that like ASAP. That can't run. Like if you're following Jesus, you got to follow Jesus. You got to put away all these evil practices that you guys have got going on. It's important to know as well, Western colonialism, they also did include building hospitals, schools, giving people an education. And honestly, that is a very good incentive for people to think, you know what, things are getting better. Let's also adopt and listen to what these people are saying. It was a perfect vehicle as well for them to also spread the Christian message and really get people on their side. One thing I want to talk about is Nollywood and the media portrayal of anything, any sort of semblance to traditional practices, and the way they have a really big role to play in the demonization. Because why was I in this salon at the age of 8, scared to death because the auntie do my hair put on some like Nollywood movie, and this lady kept appearing and disappearing, doing herbs in the forest. It honestly sketched me out. That is permanently brain trauma. Like, I don't even know how to explain like how terrified I was for days. These kind of media portrayals of traditional spiritual practices in Nigeria are so common in Nollywood.
Holy Ghost fire, consume them in Jesus' mighty name. Holy Ghost fire, consume them in Jesus.
There is a very big emphasis on Jesus gonna save the day. Put those herbs, put that bead, put all those traditional, go and put it down. It's gonna be used to kill, destroy, and hurt someone. Evil, witchcraft, bad. There's never any sort of good that has been portrayed with traditional spiritual practices, which is sad. And people still have this opinion. I even saw a TikTok recently, and this guy was like, "You guys don't know what you're talking about. You guys don't know what you're playing with. Like, Jesus is the way."
Please leave this African spirituality. Please leave it alone. Listen to the people that have lived it. Leave it alone. Because those words that he said, if he said that to a true African, do you know what they'll do? They'll start running. They will start running. I am begging y'all. Y'all don't know what y'all getting yourself into, because I'm starting to notice that this African spirituality, this Babalawo, this Ifa is permeating America. And y'all think it's something cool. It's not.
And I'm like, okay, do you know what you're talking about? If you've only ever known Christianity, then how the hell do you know that this is... I just... Moving on. It's very, very nice to see remnants of African traditional spirituality across the globe. Unfortunately, a lot of West Africa, Central Africa, through the 1800s, we went through slavery, okay? People were taken over to North America, South America, and even through the brutality, we still see evidence of slaves who really tried to preserve their cultural identity, and that included their spiritual practices. And you see the evidence of that with hoodoo in North America, your Haitian voodoo. In Brazil as well, there's something called candomblé that was introduced in the 19th century, and no one better come for me for the way I pronounce candomblé. I tried my best. I did my research. I believe I'm saying it right. If I'm wrong, do let me know though. Which is basically a mixture of traditional spiritual practices from like the Yoruba people, like from the Ifa and Central Africa, and the mixture of the Roman Catholic practices that were introduced to them via, slavery. It shows that it was really dear to our ancestors, and I think that should be something we really, really preserve, talk about, and revere. These are basically my final thoughts. I don't think I'll ever have final thoughts, because me, I have thoughts for days. I can think, and I can talk. But just to keep this video as short as possible, I have to question. These are open questions. I really want to start a discussion in these comments. I really am open to hearing everyone's point of view. So this is more like an open forum to do that. And even my thoughts are very much the stream of consciousness. They're not, this is it. Like, it's very much these are just my thoughts. One thing I will address, when it comes to the Greeks, I'm sure none of them are celebrating Zeus at this moment in time or history, but I love how we can indulge in their mythology, their old gods, and for them it's celebrated. It's like, yeah, this is what people believed. Like, there's a kind of healthy way that those older practices, mythology, blah blah blah, are respected. Whereas for my people, it's very much like, that was evil. Our ancestors didn't know what they were doing. I find it very demeaning and low-key a sign of the low racial self-esteem that is really present and evident in a lot of people, both Africa and the diaspora, in my opinion.
Some of y'all don't want to hear that because you don't live in reality. But I'm telling you, as a psychologist, I'm not going to be able to psychologize all them on the corner. Some of them going to sleep for good.
I feel like this demonization of African traditional religions means we have really lost a particular essence to who we are. Does it mean you have to practice it? No. But understanding, learning it, and of having an appreciation is completely lost. And I feel like it's such a key part of our history, of who we are as people, our culture. And for that to be completely swept under the rug, and if not even swept, it's literally stomped on. It's sad. It's just sad to me. I don't know. I don't know. I also acknowledge I have no direct sort of knowledge or understanding or experience with even my own traditional religion. I really think it would be helpful if people who did practice could try to, and I say could try because it's hard. It's really hard to be stigmatized. And I think for some people, it's a matter of life and death. But those who can, please talk about it. Please talk and tell us about these practices. Keep these things preserved for people to have an understanding of what has come before, even if you don't practice. And I feel like that would be helpful even for me as someone who just feels like this part of my culture is a bit disconnected as an SM person. This would be so helpful for people like me who are interested in learning history of our spiritual practices, tradition, dances, herbal medicine. All these things are key to being proud of who you are, in my opinion. Side note, I find it very interesting. A lot of people on Sunday is hallelujah, or Friday in the mosque, but when things are going wrong and they're not getting the answers they want, guess who they go and seek? They go and seek that babalawo. The hypocrisy is also very, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. But I really hope we all get to a point where we can actually have this conversation without it being such a negative, very reactive sort of space people are in when this topic comes up. Anything could be good and bad. You can use anything for good and bad. Every religious practice, religion, and the common world ones, you can use it for good and bad. I don't, and I refuse to believe that my ancestors, people who have come before me generations and generations ago, were just dogging each other out day in day out with witchcraft or whatever nonsense we've been told. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. This is kind of my final thoughts. Please, 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 I really want to hear what everyone else has to think. Bring it to me. Hit me. Hit me. I haven't seen a lot more discourse on it, which I am happy about, because at the end of the day, good or bad, this is what we need. We need to have these conversations. It shows that the paradigm is shifted in a way. We're actually starting to think critically about things, especially in this new age of anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism. I would say English is not my first language, so that's why I got that word completely wrong. But that's not true. It is. I just struggle to speak English for some reason. I don't know. That's probably my ancestors telling me like you're not even meant to be learning this colonizer language. Like you're meant to be speaking it, and I am in the process of learning the language. So don't come for me. Please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. I will be talking more about these kind of topics. I also will be committed to looking at what you guys have to say, engaging in honest discussion. If you're gonna chat shit, you're gonna get banged. No, you're not gonna get banged. You're gonna get blocked. But either way, be respectful, please, to everybody else. And yeah, let's see what y'all have to say.